I'm going to show you how to do the fisherman's rib. My work is facing right side. I marked it with a stitch marker. First stitch is a selvage row, so we're going to knit it. Then the pattern calls for knit one below. So instead of knitting the needle or the loop on your needle, you're going to go one below. So insert my needle here. Next stitch is a purl. Then again, knit one below. So not the loop on your needle, but one below. Once you're done this row, turn your work and just knit across the other side. Now that our work measures 6.5 inches or 16 centimeters, we are going to pick up stitches on the right side facing, and I have a stitch marker here. I like to mark my right sides with it. We're going to pick up along the left edge, 12 stitches, work the row on the needles, and then 12 stitches along the right edge. Cut your yarn, and now we're going to start at the bottom left-hand side of the piece, right side facing again. I'm just going to work this open a little bit. I want to make sure I grab as close to this front edge as possible to make sure I have a nice neat edge when it's complete. So I'll just work this open and insert my needle and pick up one stitch in here. You can see the selvage row makes it very easy to see where to pick up. I'll just continue picking up here. $11, $12. Now I've worked my way up to the row that's on my needle, and the selvage stitch, actually on both sides here and here, are going to become purl stitches. So I'm going to go ahead and purl the stitch. Gets a little tight in here. And then work this in pattern. So we've got one knit, one below as the next stitch to work, then a purl stitch. I'll continue in pattern. And last stitch, again, that's the selvage stitch. That becomes a purl stitch. And now I'm going to work the right side edge. I'm going to pull my needle out a little bit to give myself some room. It does get a bit tight. And again, the selvage row makes it easy to see where you pick up. So I'm just going to go in this hole right here. Pick up 1, 2, continue all the way to the end. And then my 12th stitch is going to be here in this cast on row. I'm just going to work this little stitch open in here, pick up my 12th stitch, and again, that's to create that lovely edge. And then you'll build out the piece by continuing to knit back and forth. Now we're going to work a double increase, and I've marked the spot here with a stitch marker. What you're going to do is insert your needle one below and knit that stitch, but don't pull it off the needle. Then you're going to yarn over to create that purl stitch and knit through that hole one more time. Knit and pull your stitches off the needle. And now you've got a double increase. Let me show you one more time. So insert your needle one below, knit that stitch, but don't pull the loop off the needle. Yarn over and knit that stitch through the same hole one more time. And now you've created a knit, purl, knit, double increase. You can pull everything off the needle. Now that our work measures 6 3/4 inches or 17 centimeters from the cast on edge, we're going to work 4 double decreases. First up is a right leaning decrease. SBKPP is the abbreviation. I'm going to slip my stitch marker. So the first thing I'm going to do is slip the first stitch, but I need to go one below. So I'm going to insert my needle here in the one below, slip it off to the right side. Then I'm going to work the next stitch by knitting it. And then I need to pass the first worked to those two loops, that first stitch over the middle stitch. Make sure you have both loops. And then I need to pass that stitch over, but I need to prep it first. So I'm going to insert my needle, again, one below, but through the back, slip it back onto my left-hand side, slip the first stitch over as well, and now I'm ready to pass that last stitch over the middle stitch. A little tricky. And now you have a right-leaning double decrease. So I'm going to slip the stitch back to the right-hand needle because that's worked. Next is a purl stitch. And now I'm going to work a left-leaning double decrease. First thing I'm going to do is slip the first stitch, again going one below. Then I need to knit these two stitches together, but I need to prep them. So I'm going to pass the middle stitch over to the right-hand side and prep this stitch by going one below, but from the back, slipping it off, and then slipping both loops back onto my left needle along with the middle stitch, and then knitting them both together, making sure you have all three loops. And now I'm ready to pass the first slip stitch over that middle stitch. And again, just make sure you grab both of those loops. And that creates a left-leaning double decrease. Now we're ready to work the neck and yoke. So I'm going to join in the round by casting on 9 stitches. To do that, you create this triangular shape by holding the yarn between your thumb and your index finger, and you scoop up the yarn going from bottom left, top right to create a loop. Bottom left, top right, scoop. I'll place a stitch marker here to mark the beginning of the round. The rest of the balaclava is worked in a simple 1x1 rib. Now these salvage stitches, this first one and the last one here, both become purl stitches in the pattern, and we actually start with a purl. So I'm going to purl, next stitch is a knit, purl, and then knit, and that becomes the simple 1x1 rib pattern. After working 4 rounds in the simple 1x1 rib, we are now going to work an increase to shape the yoke. I've marked it here with a stitch marker. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to knit through the stitch but not pull it off the needle. Then we're going to yarn over. Again, that creates that middle purl stitch. And knit through that stitch one more time to create a double increase and maintain the pattern of knit, purl, knit. To bind off the piece, I'm using Jenny's Surprisingly Stretchy Bind Off, JSSBO, because I really love this sort of horizontal looking knit column that it creates along the edging. And it's also very stretchy, as the name implies. I'll show you how to do that. I've already done a couple stitches here. First we'll yarn over, bringing the yarn to front, purl the next stitch. Now I should have 3 stitches on my needle. Then I'm going to pass the yarn over the purl stitch and that first stitch over those 2 stitches. So again, yarn over, bringing the yarn to the front, purl the next stitch, again 3 stitches on your needle, pass the yarn over that first stitch and the next stitch over those 2 stitches. And as you can see, it creates this really lovely horizontal knit rib edge. Now I'm going to pick up 54 stitches along the face opening. I'll start with this knit column by inserting my needle right in here. Next will be a purl stitch, so I'll go in the purl column. As you can see right in here, there's a little opening. Insert my needle in there, pick up a stitch, knit column. I'll continue to do that. Here's the purl. It's the last knit column on the front. Then we get to the side here. So that's going to be a purl stitch. And again, you can see a little opening here. Insert my needle and pick up a stitch. And the side here is what our selvage edge created. And again, it's very easy to see where you pick up because it creates these holes. So just insert your needle in the holes and pick up stitches along there. To bind off the piece, I'm using Jenny's Surprisingly Stretchy Bind Off because I really love this horizontal looking knit column that it creates along the edging. I've already done a couple stitches here, and instead of knitting, I'm also using a purl stitch. So first we'll yarn over, purl the next stitch. You should have 3 stitches on your needle. Now we're going to pass the yarn over that purl stitch and then pass the other stitch over as well. One more time, yarn over, purl the next stitch, leaving 3 stitches on the needle, pass the yarn over that last purl stitch, grab the first stitch and pass it over both stitches. And as you can see, it creates a lovely horizontal kind of knit rib.